Welcome to part 2 of my 2024 Top 100 Roller Coasters list. For those who have already seen spots 100 to 51, feel free to skip the intro. Otherwise, allow me to fill you in on what's going on here. At the end of each year, I, alongside most other content creators in the coaster enthusiast community, rank the top roller coasters we've personally experienced. I think I speak for all of us that this can be a real challenge, as we first have to come up with a group of rides that are worthy of making our list, and then figure out how to rank them from worst to best. While most settle at a top 25, maybe top 50, I'm going all out with a top 100 this year. Honestly, I didn't think I had much of a choice now that I've ridden more than 1,000 coasters worldwide. I'd just be leaving out too many awesome rides otherwise. For context, 572 of my roller coaster credits have been obtained in the United States, while Canada boasts 27 and Mexico 13, respectively. Overseas, I've now been on coasters all across the European continent, 16 individual countries to be exact. My last big theme park trip was dedicated to cleaning up what I had left in Europe, so for all intents and purposes, assume anything over there qualifies with the exception of Italy. That's the one area I've neglected visiting up to this point. A few ground rules before we begin: defunct roller coasters will be included in my list, though fortunately only 2 are on here. Also, there's a select handful of rides I've done that you can experience in some unique way, whether it be a backwards facing or rotating seat, a sped up lift hill, you get the point. For those, I'll try to find a middle ground of what it's like to ride normally and what it's like when enhanced. In general, roller coasters tend to run differently pending a variety of circumstances: friction, temperature, how many people are on a given train, and maintenance, which can determine how smooth a coaster will run. Namely, it's wooden roller coasters that can fluctuate so much in the latter department, so those are what usually see the most movement on my top coasters list year after year. One more thing before we dive in, I've decided to split this into 2 parts, with spots 100 to 51 featured in my last video, while the top 50 are the stars of this one. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's talk coasters. At number 50, I have Terran at Phantasialand in Germany. Though I've never loved this as much as some others do, it's held up pretty decent over the years, actually finding its way higher on my top 100 than it used to be. I think the reason for that is I've been able to experience this ride with my expectations in check, and now I appreciate the layout and its interaction with the theming more than ever before. Number 49, Redfire at Korsan Adası in Turkey. This obscure launch coaster was a pain for me to get on, but I'm happy to say it was worth all the stress because it did manage to claim a top 50 spot. The ride is a bit inconsistent with a weak finale relative to the rest of the layout, but it also has one of my favorite stretches of ride ever in the first half. Absolutely incredible coaster, very fast paced, very intense. Number 48, Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm in California, USA. I often take this ride for granted since it's at one of my home parks, but it really is fantastic. Not only does it run remarkably smooth for its age, but it's got a great variety of airtime and laterals while also maintaining an excellent pace most of the way through the layout. Number 47, Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland in Ontario. Something you should know about me is I'm big into coasters that focus on speed, and as a result, you'll see rides like Leviathan placed higher on my list than it may for others. The pacing of this ride is generally incredible, and I appreciate that they threw in some airtime to make it feel more alive than it would be otherwise. Number 46, Orion at Kings Island in Ohio, USA. By pretty much a split decision, I have Orion 1 spot above Leviathan, even though they're extremely similar in what they're trying to achieve. While this one is marginally less smooth, I think its airtime is a bit stronger, with an excellent sequence in the middle and at the end. I do wish it stayed lower to the ground, but it's still loads of fun when you enjoy it for what it is. Number 45, Boardwalk Bullet at Kemah Boardwalk in Texas, USA. The most compact roller coaster I've ever seen, this Seaside Woody has one of the most creative layouts ever. Despite the build constraints the Gravity Group had to work around, the airtime and pacing is unbelievable. The ride could afford to be a bit smoother, but it's otherwise fantastic and very underrated. Number 44, Shambhala at Portaventura in Spain. Dare I say, this is a perfect hypercoaster, at least in terms of what I'd want as a park. It executes each of its hills amazingly well, with sustained floater airtime out the wazoo. Similar to Mako, however, I'm not crazy about its finale, and I would prefer more intensity myself, which is why at number 43, I have Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia in Georgia, USA. One of my more unpopular takes is that this is the world's best B&M hypercoaster. Before I rode Shambhala, I thought maybe that could be the one to dethrone this, but where I think Goliath is able to narrowly edge it out is in its second half. The intensity of those smaller hills is excellent. It's the only ride of its kind with borderline ejector airtime. Number 42, Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California, USA. Easily one of the most creative RMCs ever built, this was designed to duel each lap around, and even if it doesn't always achieve that due to slow operations on the park's behalf, it still is a spectacular layout. The airtime is very powerful, and the 2 inversions it throws in are both world class. Number 41, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood in Pennsylvania, USA. How this was ever built, I'll be asking myself forever. The terrain interaction with this is just ridiculous, and it only gets better as you progress through the layout. While I enjoyed the first half, the ejector airtime in the second is what really makes an impression on me. I remember riding this for my first time and thinking I've never felt anything like that. Number 40, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure in Florida, USA. This has to be the most technologically advanced coaster of all time. Built by Intamin, Hagrid is part dark ride while also featuring 7 launches, a spike which allows for a backwards portion, and a 17-foot tall drop track. Along with that, you've got the straddle seating setup, onboard audio, the list goes on. This is a masterpiece of a family coaster. Number 39, Boulder Dash at Lake Compounds in Connecticut, USA. This incredibly unique wooden roller coaster has continued to climb up the ranks for me, as it's running better now than it ever has before. It's got an edge to it for sure, but if anything, the roughness adds a layer of intensity to further give this coaster its out-of-control feel. Its terrain interaction is perfect, its airtime is great, and it's even got some sick lateral moments as well. Number 38, Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England in Massachusetts, USA. Narrowly edging out Boulder Dash for best coaster in New England, this little RMC has always kicked ass the whole way through for me. The way it bucks you up out of your seat over and over, occasionally throwing in an inversion or a bank turn, it's a surprisingly amazing layout. And the pacing is phenomenal. I've never once ridden this and thought it went too slow, even at the end. Number 37, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas in Texas, USA. A fascinating design from RMC. I've never seen a ride interact with its environment quite like this. Its 2 drops off the quarry wall are astounding, and the single inversion it features is among my favorites this manufacturer has done. Though it may be short, everything it packs in is of excellent quality. Number 36, Wildfire at Kolmården Zoo in Sweden. This is a relatively similar coaster to Iron Rattler with some key differences, like it being a wooden coaster and its layout being a little less consistent. Wildfire's first half is absolutely one of the greatest sequences of any ride in the world. The second half, meh, not as much, but still good enough to get this up to 36 on my list. Number 35, Legend at Holiday World in Indiana, USA. When people say they love Legend, I believe them and all, but I love Legend. It's not even the best ride at this park, yet still, I'd absolutely put it up there as a top 5 wooden roller coaster. Perhaps the best in the world for laterals, some underrated airtime moments, and it is just stupid long. Number 34, Fly at Phantasialand in Germany. This revolutionary flying coaster from Vekoma does need time to warm up, but once it does so, I think it's more or less a perfect experience. The sustained positive forces, airtime on your stomach, and messed up layout where you can't tell what's next is epic. And this is one of those rides where the theming absolutely elevates it to the next level. Number 33, Let Coaster at Legendia in Poland. The only layout of its kind Vekoma's ever built, there's very likely a reason for that. Let Coaster is absolutely one of the most forceful coasters in the world, and it's not going to be for everyone. However, that alongside its rapid-fire pacing and airtime really made an impression on me. It was the first coaster I ever rode in Europe, and still to this day remains one of my favorites on the continent. Number 32, Red Force at Ferrariland in Spain. One of my most unpopular opinions, Red Force might only be a launch and a top hat, but when both elements are among the best I've experienced, well then there you go. I really just don't care that it's short because it's an adrenaline rush unlike anything else on the continent. Number 31, Lightning Rod at Dollywood in Tennessee, USA. I bet many of you will be surprised to see this so high, but yeah, my opinion on Lightning Rod changed entirely after my last few rides. Other than replacing the launch with a lift hill, I'm not exactly sure what they did to make this so good, but I just found the pacing and airtime to be so much stronger than before, and the terrain interaction is as cool as ever. Number 30, Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure in Michigan, USA. I'm not a big fan of the park this is at, but Shivering Timbers makes it worth visiting regardless, since it's absolutely one of the best wooden roller coasters in the world. The endless series of airtime hills don't just look imposing, they all delivered beyond my expectations. Just make this smoother, and it could honestly go quite a bit higher on my list. Number 29, Expedition G-Force at Holiday Park in Germany. One of the most legendary rides in Europe, G-Force always lived up to the hype for me. I absolutely love the way Intamin executes airtime in this layout, it is just insanely powerful. There's not much here that excites me otherwise, but this is some of the best airtime in the world. Number 28, Hyperion at Energylandia in Poland. A lot like a modern version of Expedition G-Force, this coaster is a bit weaker in airtime, but it has a lot more variety in its elements, including a strong dive loop and a handful of stangle dives. I do wish it were smoother on the outside seats, but Hyperion is still a rush from start to finish. Number 27, Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion in Virginia, USA. Of all the small RMCs, this has the most ridiculous airtime, and there's a lot of it too, whether it be the triple camelback, the trick track double up, or the more conventional speed hills. I'm not huge about any of the inversions, but I love everything else about this coaster. Number 26, Untamed at Walibi Holland in the Netherlands. Of all the small RMCs, this is my favorite overall. I like Twisted Timbers more for its airtime, but I think Untamed does inversions quite a lot better. It's actually got more than any other RMC at 5 and has great variation in its other elements too. Number 25, Voltron at Europa Park in Germany. The talk of the town in 2024, everyone's been absolutely raving about Voltron, and it's not hard to see why. Its airtime is immaculate, it's got 7 fun inversions, and some punchy, unique launches. They also went crazy with the theming and presentation, it is amazing. I just wouldn't rank this as high as maybe some others would because I find it obnoxiously shaky sometimes, and it's got some filler elements in the layout. Number 24, Hyperia at Thorpe Park in the UK. My pick for best coaster of the year, Hyperia may be lacking in length relative to Voltron, but it's got a world-class stretch in the first half. That first drop is now the highest beyond vertical descent on Earth, absolutely crazy. Then you have a Grey Immelman, a bizarre outer banked hill with an inversion fused into it, and an amazing stall dive loop thing. Easily the best ride in the country's history. Number 23, X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California, USA. While this legendary attraction might not be for everyone, I've always had a soft spot for it, as it's really unlike any other ride I've experienced. You'll find that it is a bit on the short side, and there are some filler elements, but most of it is ridiculously intense with all the flipping, and it's easily one of the scariest roller coasters in the world. Number 22, Millennium Force at Cedar Point in Ohio, USA. The original Giga Coaster holds up after well over 2 decades of operation. I think this thing is awesome. If you stick yourself in the front, the sense of speed is unbelievable. It feels like your face is going to get ripped off. And contrary to some others who swear on this having no airtime, I've always enjoyed the Camelback Hills, and especially the speed hill at the end. Number 21, Maverick at Cedar Point in Ohio, USA. Just narrowly edging out Millennium Force, give me its little next door neighbor Maverick. Where this ride lacks in size, it more than makes up for by packing in a crazy punch. The launches, the airtime, the inversions, it's all designed perfect. I'm not a fan of the trim after launch number 2, but that's about the only complaint I have for an otherwise phenomenal attraction. Number 20, Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Virginia, USA. An immensely underrated coaster, the variation in this layout is crazy. There's a little bit of everything, including a surprise backwards section with powerful ejector airtime. I find the second half of Pantheon to be extremely overlooked, from the drop all the way to the brakes. I have nothing bad to say about that. I'll agree the theming could have been better, but man is this thing incredible otherwise. Number 19, Toutatis at Parc Asterix in France. This is more or less the same style and quality as Pantheon, just with an impressive amount of theming which puts it higher. Waiting in line and hanging out in the station is fun, let alone riding the coaster and appreciating its astounding variety of airtime and inversions. Number 18, Deschwerdes Cannon at Hansa Park in Germany. This thing freaked me out when I rode it a few years ago. Climbing up that giant tower and flying down the drop for the tallest coaster in the country is something I can't explain in words. Following is a rapid-fire blitz of elements, which is absolutely amazing. I'll keep the tricks a secret, but that also adds to this experience. Number 17, Taiga at Lennonmäki in Finland. Virtually a perfect design, I'm obsessed with this ride's layout and the way it interacts with the hillside. The pacing is bar none, and it's got so much variety with great airtime, 4 tremendous inversions, the list goes on. Absolutely the best roller coaster in all of the Nordic countries. Number 16, Conda at Walibi Belgium in Belgium. Intamin always seems to knock it out of the park with their mega coasters, but Conda is the gold standard in my opinion. Aside from the Cobra Roll in the middle, the rest of the layout is perfect, and I genuinely mean that. The fact that I have to put rides this good down at 16 is a testament to what we've got coming up next. Number 15 is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, USA. Everyone raves about this being one of the best wooden roller coasters in the world, and in my opinion the hype is warranted. The middle section could be a little better, but I absolutely adore the rest of the elements on here. Absolutely the strongest, most powerful airtime of any Woody with crazy fast pacing. Number 14, Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, USA. When this opened, I was almost certain it would just be your average, middle-of-the-road RMC, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Wildcat feels kind of random the way its elements are sequenced, but the pacing is so strong that it just doesn't matter. The airtime is ridiculous, the inversions are fun, and it is incredibly intense. Number 13, Sky Rush at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, USA. Remaining in the same park, I had a difficult time deciding which of these would come out on top and take number 1 for best coaster in the state. As much as I love Wildcat, my memories of Sky Rush are just too good to top. The camelbacks on this deliver incredibly forceful airtime, the laterals in the middle are wild, and the intensity is almost unmatched. It is short, yes, but otherwise just such a rush. Number 12, King Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, USA. Yeah, I know, how could I put this so high? Could it be because it just closed down? No, it's actually for all the same reasons I had Red Force in my top 50, just accentuated. The launch on this was literally my favorite element ever on any ride. The power that launch brought to the table and the intensity of the top hat, especially on my final rides where you'd fly over it, was crazy. Rest in peace to the king of all roller coasters, tallest in the world for nearly 2 decades. Number 11, Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point in Ohio, USA. This was a lot like King Ka, just with lap bars instead of over-the-shoulder restraints. While I never minded the restraints on Ka, I will admit that that the freedom offered by dragsters was unparalleled. It didn't feel right going that fast and that high with a little T-bar. It was terrifying. The launch on here was as good, maybe even a little better than Kingda Ka, and the top hat was also excellent. An unforgettable coaster that I miss so much, but at least it got renovated into Top Thrill 2. Number 10, Batman Gotham City Escape at Parque Warner Madrid in Spain. We finally made it to the top 10, the greatest coasters on Earth, and Batman finds its way in here because it's literally perfect. I have no criticisms, guys, truly. The launches are fun, the airtime is absurd, I love all 4 inversions, and the theming pushed it way over the top for me. Number 9, Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure in Florida, USA. Very similar ride to Batman, but also different-y at the same time. Velocicoaster has its reputation for a reason. There's not too many coasters more fun than this. It has the best theming in the world, a super well-rounded layout, and a world-class stretch of elements at the end, anchored by my favorite inversion ever. Number 8, Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa in Florida, USA. Slowly climbing over Velocicoaster, I can now safely say this is my favorite roller coaster in the state. It falls way behind it in terms of theming, but in terms of ride experience, this is incredibly fast-paced and very intense. Some of the best airtime moments ever, an elite inversion in the middle. There's a reason this is many people's favorite attraction on the planet. Number 7, Zadra at Energylandia in Poland. This has a lot in common with Iron Gwazi, but I ended up giving it the edge since it's got a bit more variety with the strong lateral moments, and I find it more consistent through the entire layout as well. The airtime is all great, I love its collection of inversions, and above all else, its pacing is something from another planet. Number 6, Air Force 1 at Fun Spot Atlanta in Georgia, USA. Concluding a run of 3 consecutive RMCs, Air Force blew me away more than any other coaster ever has. It was a fair bit weaker when I rode it in the winter time, but those late spring and summer rides might literally be the best experience found on any RMC. The pacing is unparalleled, the sequencing and elements is crazy, and the quad down finale is the greatest airtime moment I've ever seen. Number 5, Fury 325 at Carowinds in North Carolina, USA. There's never been a lot of movement in my top 10, so the simple fact that Fury 325 has managed to crack my top 5 for the first time is a huge deal. This is by far the best coaster B&M has ever built, dialing up the intensity to 11 and packing in airtime in places you'd never expect it. The sense of speed feels otherworldly, and it's also perfectly smooth despite its extreme forces and pacing. Number 4, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point in Ohio, USA. I love airtime, you love airtime, we all love airtime, and this single ride has more of it than any other coaster by quite a lot. It's an extremely long attraction and most every element is exceptional. The only reason it's fallen slightly is because, as expected, rides where the mid-course brake run trims you are not quite as good. But Prime Steel Vengeance is unbelievable, and I do not think its layout could be improved, if at all. Number 3, Voyage at Holiday World in Indiana, USA. By far the best wooden coaster on Earth, physics don't seem to apply to this ride. It's only 159 feet tall, yet is able to clear more than 6,400 feet of track with plenty of speed left over. The pacing is absurd, and you can thank the hilly terrain of southern Indiana for that one. There's never been and will never be a ride like this ever again, and if you have the opportunity to experience this trimless at Hollywood Nights, it might just be the greatest experience on any coaster in the world. Number 2, Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion in Virginia, USA. Same thing can be said here. There won't be another coaster like this ever again. This is by far the most intense coaster on Earth after riding just about all of the craziest ones, and that's because the positive G-force is incredibly sustained and it's just ridiculous when combined with world-class pacing. The sense of speed on this ride alone could have gotten up to the top 5, but there's so much more to it than that, including some underrated airtime moments. I look forward to seeing this coaster's transformation into Pantherion. Breathing new life into an attraction this outstanding can only ever be a good thing. And at number 1 is the Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland des Pan in Belgium. My all-time favorite ride, 3 years running, this is pure euphoria unlike anything else. The layout is great and I love the elements, but it's the spinning vehicles that make this so good. Not the disorienting amount of rotations either, just enough to make each moment feel unique and different every time. I love the onboard audio and theming, I think it adds so much and cements this being a one-of-a-kind experience on Earth. I'd be curious to know if there's anything else out there that even stands a chance against the Ride to Happiness. Well, that just about does it. My top 100 list, and by the time I'm done editing this, it'll probably feel surreal that it's over. As the past few videos have taken loads of time and effort, I'd appreciate it greatly if you could leave a like here and consider subscribing to Coaster Dash for more content like this in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye guys.